lossless plurality of feminists committed in our dynamic assertion of quietude. We untie contradictions like ribbon or rope to bind another favorite or freak. Hunger, immaculate. Inflamed desire sets the celestial year, washed in heat, ink the nectar, then chase sweat in a lineage of lesbian erotics in the forge of this renaissance. And the doms holding this room, sounding out the black box to service desire as reason gives in. For this is the beginning of now. And in your beauty, stranger, lay my fingers into the fist we hold together, locking eyes, entering our lover. Serving the room from upon my body, enjoined limbs tied, strapped, ink textural in the dozens of dozens. Moist, nectar between hands, black latex and silicone platforms under your souls, giving perspective, seclusional, and lover, another, she the service, we the feast. Face to flesh and trusting the room, directives in play, dissolve the clock, pierces the social, repeating, tendering the mouth's bite. I've been asleep for about a week and can't remember how to talk. Okay, filth over, time for rage. I'm going to read from Apparitions. I'm going to read the beginning. I wrote these poems when Edinburgh Action for Trans Health one got dragged through the right-wing press back at the end of 2017. Decima unmade and horny, our shaven flesh and locks dined on black beans, corn, sugar, vagabonds, tinkers, tricksters and jailbirds had demanded our bodies owe fascist rags, codes and division, systematic flesh and capitals. Nostalgia imposed and gender-derivative nations soil. Agree, your logic treacherous, political and philosophic, distribution of thought and activity engineered, divestment, hot policing and exotic, quote, some of us want to keep our jobs, end quote, in your demand that we flash nice for being and pills had abolished your entitlements, our sexes and flesh constituted from the women and femmes who charged you, pale and sweating majorities, smears and intonations, assured arrogant thieves. If your violence is a source of pleasure, we trust our anxious days and juts where once bridges, borders, decline winter bones, gorgeous, warm. Girl, if we are citizens of nowhere, a threat to the tone and image composed, cute lace, we divine femmes know here to dissect your impositions. So late in the day, bark organs in casual violence, your pleasure, excruciate living, and the beauty about our eye lines. These decades-old violence, for bored stars and black salt, she said the possible diminished, order administered names, heart and solstice-eyed, fall into the waged day, turbulent shimmer, out of discourse traded close, pinned, ordinary trappings and verse, to squat, dislocate. In nationhood, your reveries, 500 truncated years, we dined on stolen whiskey, tar, material bones forced to find work. A rustic allegory, narrating cities and aggressions, light and nature false conditioned, cohered by skin's hours, separated, crushed. At trial, your crimes of invention, in my charred gold mini dress, cremated homes, debt and circuits, capital commission and hate, dined on flour, divine salt and threads of your flags, aroused our vulgar comedy, drives and erotics, silenced your beliefs and rituals, disintegrating. Justice is a practice to unfold, reverse the future, turn the truth up from soil, in the everyday, compelled, all that crashes with pandemic, all that's held against need. And after our affections, dozed regressive histories, bloom alternate truths. Some water. I'm going to finish with this. This poem's called Philadelphia. It's written after an artwork by Zoe Leonard. You might remember her from I Want a Dog for President, called Strange Fruit. It was made between 1992 and 1997. The poem explains the artwork. Philadelphia, concealed gold. You put the vial into my hand and say it's a 10-month supply, and I reply of needle phobia. In the museum, the desk clerk waves me in, looks at the room number to Leonard's Strange Fruit. I curve Courbet and Monet, caught at Riviera and Kandinsky. Diego's horse sorrows, the comrade bleeding, turned away from the burning plantation. And Zoe's fruit have been decaying for 30 years. The skin of the lost gen turning hard as leather, sewn back together. Look past the baseball, see the body mind. The work of dykes and other queers holding decaying flesh, faggots and femmes in the time of crises. The sutra is method from David Roshnorovich's mouth. To fill a state and capital sanctioned void, rotting cater wall, memories, grievous, meditative, fused in needlework, in labours so. Commit to witness estrangement, decomposure, layers of social disintegration. And we were just at your breakfast bar after you left for New York. Your wife talking of her critique of Sarah Schulman. Really the same question I had in 2018 in Warsaw, or in 2021, or was it 20? Of the absence of any trans people in the histories of ACT UP, now with one trans woman, Kathy Otterstein, restored to the narrative. Schulman replied that it was about how people identified then. But here, if the HIV/AIDS crisis is ongoing for poor black and brown trans femmes, in the South especially, global or American, it means the erasure of our bodies, lives and struggles for healthcare is continuous from the 1980s until now. And the fruit faintly odorous still of the sweet life. 295 pieces, banana, orange, grapefruit, lemon, and avo. Threads straying, elongated, curving arches of baby and indigo blue buttons. Normies poke their heads for a few seconds into the room. English couple exclaim, "What the hell is that?" And is my phobia really of the hand that administers, be it the drugs or the care? I still find myself in tears on the sofa in her study. It's of the shriveling from the inside with which death comes. The profundities and profound hatred of nation states, their heads and waiting lists, and fuck all that. If I ask you to remove my calluses, my clothes, trade the dilator for a strap, laughing in the fire of the love felt from and through the care team, and the husks and peels grown travelled, handled, blackened, and one even mummified in gold and thread. And Billie Holiday, of course, is in the room. She teaches us who they come for first. And any suspicions we have, the race politics of equivalence, hegemonic whiteness of the work, is the same complaint we have for our histories, our communities, our poetries. Keep the challenge upon the living. But here the queers say, hey, at least, as my eyes catch the scars, the bra under an MB's mesh, September 2024. Every time you tell me you feel helpless, immobilized, unable to act next to the work you have to do. It's day 346 of the genocide in Gaza. I tell you how we mobilized our grief into action, broke through fear, put our body minds back into the street again, the lesson learned again and again from Sylvia Rivera. When faced down with rifles, the tactical police gave them 10 seconds to clear Weinstein Hall, New York University, under occupation, September 1970. For gay power, she screams, give me a G. And so in the way that holds our body minds together, all of them that are with you, crying now by our full intentions, spinning, alternate at New Year's like an omen for a year. What we want to do is free as a verb, said Nada Elia of Palestine. To hold, or at least to lock arms in the face of the next deaths under empire. And sure, I admit it, I don't want a dyke for president anymore. I want the end of presidencies. And to not have to make ethical appeals in the first person in the poem, even if it's the way to get them to stop, to reflect on the decaying life right at the front of our eyes. And I'm still here sat with all the bodies in the gallery, dehydrated, sighing, salty, prosaic. And unlike our cremated friends, the fruits cast a shadow. And to claim that our generation of queers couldn't be radical because we hadn't lived through the crisis, which Shulman does in Gentrification of the Mind, is to miss that we were already living another crisis that takes and two nearly took us out. And for all of you, or us, activists, researchers, who don't recognize the cisnorm constructing your political agent, if there's an hour for life and dialogue, it's now. Talking to the girls, we're parched for it, and care, and thirsty too. And in pink, future-stitched, paint-splattered trousers, curved hips, stash, and earrings, someone sits with me, cross-legged. It's a visual. Reading everyone who walks into the room now is queer. And they ask if I have a favorite fruit. And read the reason why the work survived the decay, the artist's intent, was that it was sold to this museum to be displayed for a period each year. But after 2001 was in storage, treated with typical conservation practices, sucrose solution, surviving by staying sweet. And is it capital or labor, the only backing for maintenance? Or is the problem the mummification, and already we were girls lost by other mothers, or exploitation, the universal museum adding to their collection of corpses? But the fruits are bodies of grief, the queers already dead of institutional indifference. And having eaten all of what's before us, Zoe says, quote, I like to think about all the things I'd like to repair and all the things I'd like to put back together. Not only losing David in his death, but losing him in our friendship while he was still alive, end quote. And flesh made, the battleground between us, between our fingers, threading sutras we offer, mutual core, a solution against estrangement. Back our bodies, each other, the apartment clothes cleaned, tables, dinners, this way to life. Thanks.
So rich and powerful. Again, Nat's books are available in the bookshop if you want to have a look afterwards. We have one more fantastic writer to hear from. It's Nile Moorjani. Nile is a storyteller and theatre maker whose work focuses on all things queer and post-colonial. They have performed all over the world and people have written nice things about them in newspapers. Thank you. Big round of applause for Nile.
And I literally forgot to include poet in the little bio. That's on me. So I've got 2 poems and a story. First poem's a prose poem, is a little bit longer. The second poem's a poet poem, not a prose poem. The second poem's slightly shorter, and then the story's a story. The first one is called It Wasn't Us, and it's about, it was part of a project led by Hannah Lavery, who I'm sure, who's amazing, and it was about decolonising museums in Edinburgh. So the poems are sort of here, there, and everywhere in the different museums up and down the Royal Mile, and you can go check them out. But this one's It Wasn't Us, and it's about sort of, I grew up in Dundee, and we Scots have a very, for those up from London, we have a very complex relationship with colonialism and our role that we didn't play in it, even though we might have played a small role in it. Just a wee one. It goes like this. It wasn't us, or that empire malarkey. The English, no joking, I'm half English, oppressed us. Don't look too deep into that, just trust me. Sure, in 1695 we tried to start our own slave colony, but it failed. And the failure led to the Act of Union, so it wasn't us. In fact, we were the abolitionists. Welcoming Frederick Douglass, driven by James Brougham, all Thomas Hardy divine preaching, so that's the plantation aberrations abolished. And wasn't it Rabbie Burns who wrote the Slaves' Lament? See, we were the goodies. It wasn't us. Okay, apart from Henry Dundas, delaying abolition, prolifically profiteering off genocide, but he was a rich prick. So barely even Scottish. Okay, there was Gladstone, father of the famous reformer, but after he had abolition, he was compensated for his property and used the money to fast-track indentured labour from India, replace black with brown, same conditions, same lack of pay, same death penalty for running away, but this time, they had signed a document. What matter that they couldn't read? Honestly, it wasn't us. When David Hume basically said, if you take a black man and educate him in the West, he will turn white, he didn't mean that. He had smoked so much opium by that point, he didn't even know a chair which was there was really a chair or even there. Thank you. It wasn't us. And that was all poshos anyway. It doesn't matter that our middle classes and working classes benefited, owned lives in a way that their English cousins couldn't dream of. It doesn't matter that the middle classes went to the Caribbean to become foremen. It doesn't matter that the Highland regiments massacred Indian rebels in 1857, forced Indian rebels to lick Highland boots clean of Indian blood before hanging them in pig and cow skins. Religious sensibilities for once carefully considered. That sounds bad, but it wasn't us. Speaking of India, it certainly wasn't us when it comes to that Winston Churchill. He had nothing to do with us. Okay, he was MP for Dundee for 12 years. But we didn't like him so much that we voted him into power for 12 years. But I promise him it wasn't us. And I didn't want to have to do this, alright? But there, I'm going to say it. We Scots were oppressed first. Okay, I said don't look into it. Because if you do look into it, and kind of weren't, yes, the Highland Gaels were oppressed first, and many Gaels fought with Edward I as Wallace or Bruce, and yes, the Scots oppressed them before the English got involved. James IV subdued and punished the lords of the Isles. The Gaels never called themselves Scots. Scots signed off on Culloden, but later Walter Scott said that wearing tartan was cool. So we Scots started wearing it. Parading as played peacocks without an ounce of aggression received for this historical transgression. Isn't it amazing how time heals all? So it doesn't matter. If that was us, it was all so long ago, it doesn't matter, because, okay, Empire, it wasn't us. Name one Scot involved. John McGlashan, plantation owner. Okay, name 2. Eliza McGlashan, plantation owner. Name 3. Alexander Merkishan, plantation owner. Name 4. William Lambie, plantation owner. Name 5. Henry Dundas, plantation owner. You said him already. You meant Henry Dundas' son. I sense you could go on, naming, listing, shaming and blaming owners of plantations, owners of the enslaved, owners of human beings, and fuck. Just remember that Burns didn't actually write the Slaves' Lament. He nearly took a job with plantation owners, his work was funded by plantation owners, his mates were plantation owners. I'm begging you, it wasn't us. Right, what's next on your woke agenda? I hope that clears that up. Scotland wasn't involved. This next one is from a show I've got called Gawain in the Green Knight, brackets, but it's gay. Thank you, that's the level that the show works on, but there are these little moments of sincerity. So it's mostly just really dumb jokes about toxic masculinity, but there are these little moments of sincerity that sort of come through poems, and this one is called Changeling. It's from Gawain's perspective. He's sort of on a little journey at this point and is still finding himself out. Here it goes like this. Sometimes I wish I was a changeling, a fairy who replaced a stolen child. It would explain so much. Why I love the bright flash of kingfishers, and white flower at golden hour, hawthorn in bloom, and rushing, gushing water, and the colour green, and all things that grow green, and all things that grow. And it would explain why I don't fit in this world, and why I don't fit with men, and why the word man doesn't fit with me. I wear it like someone else's clothes. What am I? I'm the kind of man who thinks too highly of women, but not in the right way, who thinks too lowly of men, but thinks of them in ways which are wrong, who thinks of one man in a way which is wrong. If I was a changeling, I wouldn't be a man. I would be a fairy, with a home to return to, and arms to return to, and the right to choose who I return to. But I am not a fairy. I am a man, and I have no choice but to wear these ill-fitting clothes as best as I can. Gawain goes on a journey, goes on a lot of lovely lessons. It's all good. It's a very silly, queer version of the story. And speaking of stories and speaking of changelings, which is a very lazy segue because I wrote the last bit. Speaking of stories and speaking of changelings, this next story is also called Changeling. It's a story I wrote a wee while ago and haven't told for a little while, so if it comes out a little strange, please forgive me. But storytelling is sort of the main thing that I do. And think of this as the last thing, isn't it? So think of this as a bedtime story, a little queer bedtime story to send you to sleep, to send you off into your dreams. It's also called Changeling. And it starts, as all good stories do, once, long ago. Once, long ago, there was a young couple. They just got married. And the two of them loved each other so deeply. He loved her and she loved him. And they dreamt of a future together. They dreamt of sunsets. They dreamt of listening and talking and learning more than they could have ever hoped to by themselves. And they dreamt of life coming into their lives, and everything being, well, not quite perfect, not quite happily ever after, but pretty good. And they were lucky. They wanted life to come into their lives, and life found them in the shape of just one baby boy. And he was so sweet. And they loved him from the moment they set eyes on him, and they loved him as he started to grow into a toddler. And when he became a toddler, he was so funny. He used to come down the stairs. Wearing his mother's makeup. He'd done a terrible job. He was a toddler. It was hilarious. He looked amazing though, and he looked so happy. And then as he got a little bit older, sometimes he would try on her clothes. Isn't it funny when kids do that, when little boys do that, when they try on their mum's clothes, wearing her pearls? Didn't he look funny and sweet? And then sometimes he'd say that he wasn't a boy at all. He'd say he was a girl, or he'd say he didn't have the word for gender, he was 5, but he'd say he wasn't a boy or a girl, he was just himself. And they laughed, and he made them laugh, and they spent so much time with him, and their lives were, well, it wasn't quite happily ever after, it wasn't quite perfect, but it was pretty good. Until one day, well, he kept growing and growing, but the wearing the makeup and the clothes and the changing names and the pronouns, that didn't seem to stop. And he was getting to the age where that kind of thing was a bit of a problem, and they were worried about him. They didn't know what to do, so they told him that he couldn't. He couldn't do those things anymore, certainly not outside. It wasn't okay. But the child was headstrong. and one day marched downstairs, makeup immaculately and beautifully done. This was not a toddler's work. This was the work of a teenager who didn't have access to YouTube because it didn't exist, but done wonderful work nonetheless. And the parents were horrified, sent them straight back to their room. The next day, down they came wearing their mother's clothes. They looked incredible, so well put together, pearls draped immaculately. But of course they were sent back, and the next day they announced that they didn't go by he or him anymore, and they didn't know exactly where this was going, but for now they would be they and them only. And at this point the parents were devastated. Their child, their boy, was behaving so strangely. It wasn't the sweet, playful, funny child that they grew up with, that they knew. And so they thought it only right to seek medical advice. They stepped out the door, and as they were walking they heard a strange sound.
Achille! Hello there! Hello! Yeah, remember I'm Scottish, so this voice is fine, darling. It's all good. I'm your local neighbourhood bog witch. I didn't mean to overhear, but I've got great hearing. I was just thinking, maybe I might be able to help you.
And the parents looked at the local neighbourhood bog witch and said, we're really sorry, that's very sweet of you, local neighbourhood bog witch who we've never seen before, with amazing hearing, but no offence, you kind of smell like pond, and we're going to go see a doctor.
Oh, you recognise the Nissan pond? I got it from a pond. Well, if the doctor proves to be useless, don't worry about it. Just come back and see me. I'll be right here when the plot calls for me. Ta-da!
And off the parents went to see the doctor, and the doctor heard their story of the child, of their boy, who wasn't behaving like a boy at all, and the doctor went, well, I've seen this before. What you've got yourself here is a strange but usual, perfectly normal case of a changeling. The parents were baffled. A changeling? What's a changeling? I know there was a poem earlier that used the word changeling, but I'm still not 100% sure. Don't worry, as well as being a character in this story, I can provide exposition. A changeling, my friends, is when a fairy or a group of fairies has come to your child, stolen them, and replaced them with one of their own. So the person in front of you isn't actually your child, they're a fairy, and that's why they're behaving so strangely. Much more common in babies, but it does actually happen, if you look at medieval sources, it does actually happen in adolescents and even adults. But don't worry, there's some very easy tests to solve it. The first one, nice and simple, all you need to do is boil eggshells, and if you do that, they'll go, why are you boiling eggshells? Obviously that will reveal that they're a fairy, and then all will be well, they'll give your child back. So the parents, a bit baffled by this, but this was a doctor providing sound medical advice, went back and cracked just the eggshells, got rid of the yolk, and boiled them in front of their child. And of course their child said, what the hell are you doing? That's eggshell, you can't eat those, you've just thrown away the good bit. And the parents thought to themselves, yeah, that doesn't really prove that they're a fairy. That's a perfectly normal thing to say. So they went back to the doctor and explained how, oh yeah, now I think about it, that would be a lot more useful with a baby because babies can't talk. Okay, we'll try option number 2. Option number 2, very simple as well. Take them out to the woods, or leave them in the woods, and then the fairies will know the jig's up and you'll be all good. They'll give your child back the very next day. So parents went back to their house, spoke to their child, got their child, walked out to the woods, stayed in the woods with the child for a bit, and then started walking off in the other direction. And of course, the child followed them home. Back to the doctor again. They went, yeah, I do see the problem. As I said, it was more common in babies than anything else. So most of our practices are baby related. But that one I can see they're an adolescent. They can walk. Okay. Final option. Now this one. Well, it's the big one. It's sort of the option that we try to avoid, but sometimes when we're doing proper medical treatment, we have to do things properly. It's just put them on the fire. Put them on the fire, and then they'll obviously start jumping around. The fairy will recognise that their time is up. They don't want to get burned, and then they'll return your child the very next day. The parents, that sort of landed on them. You want us to burn our child? Well, it's not your child, it's a fairy, of course. Don't worry, your child will be returned to you. But the parents, the more they thought about it, even though it wasn't their child, because of course it was a fairy, it explains so much. The fairy looked like their child. It had the same voice, the same eyes, and as much as it had been behaving very differently, they didn't know if they could do it. But this was sound medical advice from a proper professional doctor. What were they to do? Who were they to question that? And as they got to the door of their home, the weight of their decision weighed heavily upon them. Was this the only way to save their child, their beloved child? When out of nowhere, a voice.
Hello there, Steph here. I've been waiting the whole time, actually. Good to see you. You look very stressed. Now, I don't mean to question sound medical advice, but that old doctor's an absolute prick. Now, have you thought about this a little bit more? The problems, when did they start?
Well, they started with the parents explained about how once the child, when they were very little, was wearing all the wrong clothes, but it was fun and cute, and wearing makeup, and it was fun and cute, but now they couldn't do that anymore. And ultimately, this was where the issue lay.
Ah, I see. Now, when they were wee and they were wearing those things, they were very happy in themselves.
Of course, incredibly happy.
And it was only when you stopped them doing that, being and expressing whoever they are, however they felt on that day, expressing just themselves for themselves, wearing clothes that are ultimately just clothes, and makeup that's just makeup. That's when they started to turn a little bit strange, weren't as nice, weren't as full of laughter, and didn't bring joy into your lives in the same way.
I suppose so, when you put it like that.
Have you thought about just listening to them? Just asking them what's going on? And maybe if they're saying that they'd like you to use different terms for them, maybe just give it a go. At the very least, maybe say sorry and have a conversation.
And so, the parents were faced with the concept of being medically advised to put their child on the fire, or just listen to them. Unfortunately, our parents went back upstairs, knocked on their child's door, and the first word out of their mouths was sorry. And the second words were, we're ready to listen. And so they sat, and they talked, and they listened. And the sun, it did start to set. And as the sun set, they sat and they talked and they listened, and they learned so much more than they could have ever hoped to by themselves. And they found that this life that they thought they had lost was not lost, but had always been there. And this life that they've always wanted to take them beyond themselves, to bring that light and life into their own, was there. And time went by, and the three of them got on just about as well as two parents and a child can. And no, it wasn't happily ever after. And no, it wasn't perfect. But what it was is just about as close as you can get. Thank you. Hello, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Niall. That was such a lovely way to end this wonderful evening. That's it. No more. I'm not going to read, but I could. Thank you so much for coming out. Please, again, do make use of your £2 voucher if you want to. Please do follow The Love Tank on Instagram at The Love Tank, CIC. Just to, you can hear more about what we do, events in London, work across the UK, get involved in research. I'm the head of research, that's right. You could be working alongside me. Anyway, thank you very much. One final round of applause for our brilliant writers and performers.